Good morning. Welcome to the Thurston County Board of County Commissioners Agenda Setting Work Session for Tuesday, March 12th, 2024. It's 9:03 a.m. My name is Ty Mentzer, Chair of the Board. To my left is Vice Chair Commissioner Wayne Fournier. We have Commissioners Klaus, Mejia, and Edwards on Zoom, and public virtual attendance available on the Thurston County YouTube channel. We also have here Interim County Manager Robin Campbell and Assistant County Manager Rob Gelder. We are starting off this morning with a review of the draft agenda for the meeting of March 19th, 2024, which is a week from today. Today we have Board of Health meeting and no formal board meeting. And so that meeting would be called to order at 2 p.m. Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Commissioner Edwards. Approval of the agenda, opportunity for the public to address the board, County Manager update. Anything on those preliminary items?
None at this time, nothing from last week.
Okay, if there's no other questions on those items, then we'll go to the consent items. There's A through H proposed. 3A is an auditor item, resolution to increase the existing change fund.
Yes, the county uses change funds to create cash tills to be able to accept cash and make change from the public. This item is an increase in the change fund in the auditor's office for licensing and recording. It increases the total amount of the change fund to $6,000 and enables the auditor to create a separate till for each employee, which is a best practice in the county.
Questions on auditor item 3A? Seeing none, we'll go to 3B. Emergency services item, night vision binocular system and basic accessory kits for the Thurston County Sheriff's Office.
Items 3B and 3C are very similar. Both provide night vision goggles to SWAT teams. The first in the Thurston County Sheriff's Office, and item B is for the Aberdeen Police Department SWAT team. Both of these are coming through Thurston County as the fiduciary for Homeland Security Region 3. We are using federal Homeland Security grant funding to purchase the night vision goggles, and they're being purchased through cooperative purchasing.
Okay, we got representatives from Emergency Services and the Sheriff's Office. If there's any questions on this
I just
item?
want to play with them. As long as I get the chance, I'm all for it.
We can definitely arrange that.
All right.
Okay. Not hearing any other questions, so I'll move on. Thank you
I
guys.
mean, everybody understands
Thank
the
you for being
advertising
here.
thing. We've done that a couple times, right? So we were like, right, come up a couple times, why are we buying things for Grace Harbor and Aberdeen? That's because we're in like some cooperative purchasing arrangement with them.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
we are.
go ahead, Kyle. Might be useful to.
And then you have a hand from
Okay,
Commissioner Klaus.
perfect.
We are, the state is broken up into 9 Homeland Security regions. And we are Region 3, which is made up of Thurston County, Lewis, Mason, Pacific, and Grays Harbor. And within each of those regions, there is a lead administrative agency that receives a contract subrecipient from Washington State Emergency Management, which is passed through from Homeland Security, FEMA. And we are the lead administrative agency for Homeland Security Region 3, which is why we purchase,
Commissioner Klaus?
I was wondering how often we need to replace this equipment and when the last time we replaced it is. I feel like I remember this item on the agenda a few months ago, but I could be mistaken. It could have been a different piece of equipment that I'm thinking of.
We haven't replaced these yet. Prior to we had purchased 12 of them through a Homeland Security grant 2 years ago, I think it was. And before that, we've used PVS 14, so version 14 of the night vision, which we received from DRMO. So we've used that version of night vision for almost 20 years until we got the last grant about 2 years ago, which purchased 12 This time we're purchasing 14-ish to be able to supplement those and hopefully replace those other ones. So these should last us probably about 15 or 20 years at the least.
Commissioner, we have been using this particular grant. I mean, this doesn't consume all of the money of this grant. So we have been coming before the board for authority to spend parts of the grant money on various things. But this is the first time we've asked for authority for night vision goggles, is that?
Yes, we have multiple projects. So the projects are submitted through the Homeland Security Region Committee, which is made up of representatives from all the 5 counties. And then it goes through the Thurston County Emergency Management Council. So multiple projects come through for spending on these funds.
This is the second time though for night vision. Once, I think 2 years ago for 12 and then this time for 20.
All right,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Go to item, okay, so with that covered B and C.
Yes.
Let's go to D, which is a resolution reclassifying a position.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. This item is a request, actually from me, to reclassify the position that is currently a public information supervisor to a senior program manager. This recognizes the expanded role of the current PIO supervisor, who is now responsible for all media, streaming of meetings, video, and countywide support and oversight of communication. The top range of the salary range increases from $8,471 to $9,757. At the top of the range, that's an increase of $1,286 or a 15% increase. This position is filled, and although there will be an increase in pay, it will not be the full 15%.
Commissioner Edwards?
I'm curious why we're telling every other area of the county to stand by, wait, we've got new process coming. What's the deal here?
So some of the reclassifications that had been requested, especially those that were part of the budget, were attached to the comp and class study. This particular one was not, it was not a consideration at the time the budget was considered by the board. And we are working with HR on a consolidated approach to reclassifications. How does the county overall want to approach them? It is a conversation that's tied to comp and class. But this particular item was reviewed by HR. This person is working out of class, and reclass is recommended at this time. It is completely up to the board on if you would like to delay and consolidate this with other requested reclasses.
I guess I don't know about the position, and normally I think we'd just go ahead and say yes, but all of these reclasses are part of the budget, because even if it's absorbed internally, it becomes the base for the following year.
You are correct.
And so I'm getting calls from employees in Thurston County that are very concerned. There seems to be 2 statuses of employees here, that some get it, and HR is telling 2 different stories, as far as I can hear, from our employees that are hearing this. So it's a fairness issue.
I understand.
I don't like to be inconsistent on any of the measures that we take. So I don't know how my seatmates feel about it, but I see Commissioner Mejia's got her hand up. I won't hog the show here.
Commissioner Mejia?
Thank you. Can everyone hear me all right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I know that we've been trying to figure out kind of where we landed, especially with the reclasses from last year. I really do want to take and advocate for this reclass, though. This position is in charge of doing the policy for communications in the whole county. And they are out of class right now, and they're overseeing 2 additional positions. And this is something, again, that has just been in the back burner for a long time. And, I think the board needs to really move, if we're going to be talking about fairness, right, then we really need to move forward with this, because this position, again, cannot be doing all the policy, re-reviewing all of the, media that comes through. I mean, for the whole county, it's not just for the commissioner's office, and not be adequately compensated for it.
Robin, can you review the nuances of the consequences of moving someone from a management and technical pay plan to an at-will pay plan?
So the differences between the MTP and the at-will, I think HR could probably articulate it better than I could. But it's my understanding that under the at-will pay plan, the person serves at the pleasure of the appointing authority. So this person could be dismissed for any reason whatsoever, whereas you still want to follow certain protocols, but under the MTP classification, there's a little more protection. I mean, you set their salary on a range. It's not a step one like classified, but neither is the MTP. It's a higher salary range.
And wasn't there something about, I mean, we got into this with another position and it was like, it had an aspect, those are the aspects of it that I'm pretty familiar with, but there was another aspect that I wasn't as familiar with, about something about flexibility and leave and scheduling and how that person could be.
Here's all that with the MTPs, because they're overtime exempt. Both of these categories are overtime
Yeah,
exempt.
overtime exempt, maybe that's the thing I'm remembering.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not so much the pay plan that's the crux of this, it's the classification.
I saw Commissioner Edwards first.
My concern here is that we're setting ourselves up for a action, I guess for bargaining units that we deal with, bringing a complaint of an unfair labor practice. And I think we'll lose if they were to complain that we're picking and choosing individuals. It's kind of like a favoritism thing. Which group gets picked to make promotional changes and which groups don't. I want to make this change, but I don't want to put ourselves in a legal bind. And I'd guess that would be a reason we ought to have an attorney out here to answer the question for us, because I think we've got a problem percolating.
I understand your concern, I believe I do, and I agree that there is a fairness or a possible perception that the process is not fair, Rob and I have a meeting coming up with Maria next week to discuss what the appropriate approach is for the reclasses that are pending. And we'll be bringing a proposal to the board on that. And how it is tightly connected for many FTEs to the class and comp. And I think that's the biggest challenge.
It's a retention and recruiting issue as well.
It is.
And,
There's also an ongoing liability if you have someone
yeah, I mean,
working
I
out
think
of-
we're,
That
we're
was
working
my
out of
comment.
class.
We're
The
gonna get
the
caught in
fairness
the
thing goes
box
both,
here.
it goes both ways.
both ways.
You
We're
know,
gonna get
and if
caught in the
you're
box.
using somebody outside of what they were hired for, you're also, you're not being fair to them, and you're setting yourself up to be challenged by them as well.
And it's
I
one
agree.
thing if it's time limited where they're working out of class, there's processes for that. But if this is truly a change in operation and expectations for that role,
Which is clearly the case.
then you need to assign the appropriate classification.
I agree with Commissioner Fournier. You know, it does go both ways. And this has been going on for a long time. It hasn't been fixed. And really, it's just beyond time that this position is reclassified in the right place and in the right spot, because it just, the expectation of this communications position is the overall policy of the county, and yet it is not treated as such, and it's not classified as such.
Mr. Klaus?
Just a question regarding, not just this position, but all of the, classification positions. Do we have any like data on, the impact that this is having on the county as far as waiting on figuring out the process for classifications? Like, do we have information on how many people are leaving their positions because they're working out of class? Do we do exit interviews or ask department managers to do exit interviews? Or like, is there any way that we can measure the impact of this? Because my fear, like it was mentioned, the recruitment and retention issue, I hate to be losing staff because of this issue. And I think if we had a better picture of what's going on the ground level, then we might be able to use that to inform our decision-making process when stuff like this comes up.
So we don't have that kind of data. We do some exit interviews with employees, but only if they're willing. And I don't think we have any firm data on employees who are leaving because they're working out of class specifically. We could certainly ask Maria what we have. What we do have, Maria is putting together a list of the requests that she has received for reclassification so that we can figure out what the approach ought to be. When the board didn't take the action, and I will say right now, it was my recommendation to not move any of them, because when we started doing some, then people were making arguments for theirs and it got very muddy. But part of the thinking is we could go back at this time, knowing that there's an impact on the budget in the long run, and go back to what our usual process had been about having HR review the request, and if it makes sense, forward that to the Board of County Commissioners with the understanding that the officer department will absorb the cost for the remainder of the year. The only hesitation around that, and the conversation we'll be having with Maria, is that many of the requests that you received were tied to the comp and class study. So far, the reclassifications that we've asked you to approve this year, and this is not the first one, you've had them on many of your agendas, have not been those that are tied to a change in the class and comp study. they've been one-offs, if you will, like this one is. Something that had not been considered as part of that study, or there's been an agreement on behalf of the union to not pursue a change when the board, when and if the board does implement the class and comp. We really need to figure out what we're doing with that, so that we can put that to bed and move forward with whatever the plan is for reclassifications.
Is there, was this a budget request in last fall?
No,
Okay, so I'm confused by that, because Commissioner Mejia is saying this has been around forever, longstanding issue. Why wouldn't we, and now it's an emergency that we need to jump the process for getting the, classes. So something's going on here that doesn't connect, and why wasn't this a budget request if it's been a longstanding problem?
so I do not know why the former county manager did not bring this forward as part of the commissioner's budget. I'm not able to speak to that. What I do know is since I was appointed interim, this issue was brought to my attention. I worked with HR and the person in the position to come up with a resolution, and it took time to get here. So I'm not saying this is an emergency, it's something that does need to be addressed. But should the board choose to hold it until we have a conversation with Maria and a broader plan, that is your prerogative. But I would say that at some point, something does need to be done about this.
Yeah, with Commissioner Edwards, I agree. I think we're all agreeing we're gonna get there.
Yeah.
But I'm just concerned, because I'm the one that brought the class issue up a few days ago, because I've been getting questions from staff, like, what's the inconsistency that we're seeing? And I didn't have an answer for that.
I did not realize that HR was turning people down.
Well, that's what I've
So,
heard from Public Works.
No,
So.
we're gonna address that.
Does that meet our safety net, I guess? We've been telling folks for at least 6 months that I'm aware of that, well, wait, once we're done with the budget, we're gonna do something. We got done with the budget in December, we still haven't done anything, but incrementally, we've been making approvals. And other folks out there, our employees, are watching that some groups are getting okayed and some are told to wait. And it does have a financial impact on all of them, just like it's gonna have a financial impact on this FTE position, whatever we do. But we've been having that same impact on all of the employees that have requested this type of a review, and we keep telling them, well, the comp and the study plan that,
Gotta figure it out.
when we got it back, it was already old by the time it was done, and that, I guess, was part of the problem with, I guess, the whole COVID thing, certainly slowed it down. I'm not trying to point the finger at anybody, I'm just trying to.
Well, that's how market studies work, though. I mean, you're never going to get an actual, in time market study. I mean, they view a market study, they take basically at a point in time and then they report it out, right? That's just that when ours was done, it was done basically right after everyone else had gone through their process. And I remember that a lot of our employees were actually really frustrated with our market study. They did not, like it. And there was really just the positions in the market study were not the ones, besides one office that I remember specifically, right? But for the rest, it was just positions outside of the market study that, people wanted to reclassify, and we went through this whole thing in the budget process. But, again, this position did not get included in the budget process, and, this position needs to be reclassified. I hate to be kicking this position right down into that back burner again, because that's what's been happening. And you know, we're talking about retention, and you know, we're not doing a really good job if, you know, we're just gonna keep kicking down the can down the road until, you know, we get more information, or, you know, we have another conversation, or it just, it's extremely frustrating.
I guess I do have a suggestion. We all recognize it's a problem. So let's fix the problem by telling Maria at HR, okay, send them through. I mean, why are we sitting here on our hands getting nothing done when we realize that each one of these positions that we're trying to address are very important to that individual? When you get too many of them that are too important to individuals, then you get an action as an unfair labor practice, which I think would be justified. And I don't like to see the county in that position. So let's recognize our deficiency, that we've not acted on this in a timely manner. We're gonna try and rectify it, and tell HR, don't be telling people they can't make application for this anymore. Let's get the process moving and individually review the same as we always did for years.
Like
We
we've been doing.
individually reviewed all of these cases as they came forward and made a determination, mostly based on either the elected official or the department head, and recognizing their expertise in the field and saying that, yes, let's fix it. Well, we don't have the big fix yet, but that might be a year away. So let's not create a problem by picking winners and losers. If we all recognize that these folks need to have this, let's just say we're gonna do it. And do it with all of them, not just do it with one, but do them from now on until we come up with a total package solution. But don't deny some and approve others.
So I understand, I think I understand what you're saying and what you're suggesting. The challenge is that we know, set aside the compensation part of the study for a moment, because everybody was unhappy with that. The classification part of the study is what I think we really still need to address. Now, does that affect compensation? Yes, it does. But if you think about that, there are certain classifications in Thurston County that we know as a class are below average range, that really need to be moved up. We know that there are some classifications that need to be adjusted, whole classes. And what we have coming in is one office. Before I say that part, I will say, some classes have employees in that classification in multiple offices and departments. So, some offices are tired of waiting for the comp class study, so they'll put theirs forward. Others won't. We really need to be adjusting them all at once. That's why I keep saying that this is wrapped up in what the board decides to do with the class and comp study. And some of these that you're seeing are not attached, the ones that we're putting forward are not attached at all to that. And the ones that are hung up, I'm hoping that in the conversation with Maria, we see that the ones that are on hold, if you will, are the ones that are tied to the comp and class study, so that we treat everyone in that classification fairly at the same time.
So what you mean by tied to the classification study, I didn't quite understand it, but now I think I do. It means that there's a similar position across different departments or offices. And if it's a freestanding, as you called it, a one-off, then we can make the change without creating an inconsistency in another group.
Yes.
Right, and there's so that's really talking about the structure. In this current situation that's before the board, we're really talking about, we're not adding a new classification. We're talking about having the position that in the work be reflected by an existing classification that we have and moving that position into it. Because otherwise, you have someone working out of class, and that's not a sustainable mode either. But it does get to, what is that structure overall, and where do we have the need to create, I hate to say it, create additional classifications, right? Because of the nuances within the operations of the county organization as a whole. Because you get folks, when you have a compressed classification system, then it is difficult to have one class be able to basically articulate every use of that across offices and departments. It becomes really a challenge to manage that, and a challenge to go out and get those comparables. Because then you've created something that no other jurisdiction has. And so you really need to try to not have a proliferation of classifications, but you need to have classifications where you can actually go out to market and compare them.
Commissioner Fournier, and then Commissioner Klaus.
Sorry. I mean, I hear what Commissioner Edwards is saying. And that whole comp and class study thing, that's before, I haven't been privy to all that, but I've been privy to this position, and this seems like patently obvious that it deserves to be reclassified. And like, I don't know that you need one to do the other. I'm not hearing that. I understand that you want, like, we want, you know, some wide ranging fix. But like, just in the time that I've been here, that I've seen the changes in this position, to me, you know, that it's warranted.
I am
That other
not
stuff aside.
I'm not arguing against that. I think it is warranted as well.
Okay.
I'm not saying it's not. I'm trying to get ahead of the problem that it might create with a bunch of other FTEs. We're gonna have a meeting today with our department directors. I think when we come out of this meeting, we ought to say, when we go into that meeting, okay, we've had a change of heart here. We realize we've made a mistake. Let's be willing to admit we make a mistake when we make a mistake. I think that prevents folks coming to you and say, you know, you did make a mistake. Well, yeah, we know that, because we've been hanging fire for, I think, 3 years now on this comp and class study. And it was never accepted well when we got it back, because it was stale, but it was stale because of COVID. So, I mean, there's some reasons that we didn't move forward. Let's admit those mistakes or delays and try to fix everything. And I don't have any problem with this position. I think I know what the position is, but I'm not even sure about the position, but I think I do. And so I'm not arguing for or against. I'm trying to encapsulate everything together and get a fix headed down the road, because I've been getting complaints for that last 6 months about, well, what about me? You know, what about this
We're
FTE?
holding them up for 3 months at the most, so
Well,
that should not have
no,
been
we were
hung up.
holding them up during the budget process. We told them during the budget process, we're gonna fix this.
Processed a lot of reclassifications all through last fall.
Yes, and then we stopped.
Yep,
We stopped, I wanna say, somewhere around October. I'm just gonna take a guess, it was somewhere in there.
October.
And we told folks, no, wait, we're coming up with a fix. We're no closer to the fix that I can see. And if we're no closer to the fix, let's at least revert back. So we're trying to accommodate everyone as we move forward. I mean, we got an operation to run here. Let's not chase away half our folks because we don't address it and alienate the other half because we pick winners and losers. Let's just go ahead and say, and then I think this afternoon, we're meeting with elected officials. Tell them the same thing. Turn your classification change in. I know you've been told conflicting information by HR, and it's not HR's fault. I'm not trying to blame anybody. They've been trying to juggle a bunch of balls. We've given them mixed messages, I believe. So
Before you
here's
open
where
the
it
gate,
lies.
please give us a chance to have a conversation with Maria to see if we can bring you a more.
But I'd rather get closer to the fix than open the floodgates and just throw up our hands and say, well, we're no closer to fix, let's just give up on that. I mean, I'd rather literally, we've never had the conversation that I expected
Right.
we'd have. So it's like, let's at least try before we say we were gonna fail. I mean, I've never had the opportunity to say what I wanna do with the class. No one's ever asked me, and the board's never discussed it.
What's the date of our next planning session and can this be on it?
Our next planning session is Tuesday, the 26th. So we will be meeting with Maria on the 21st. Not sure.
That'll be a fast
Mhm.
turnaround time, but we ought to be able to have something.
We could put some concepts together for the board to at least discuss and move the ball down the field.
Yeah.
Because if I remember correct, we don't have a ton of agenda items for that planning session. Last
No,
time
and some of those that are currently on
We
the
can move.
board, we can move around. There are
Yep.
others
Let's
that are
have
not
labor
time
law
sensitive.
attend that meeting with us. Somebody.
Commissioner Klaus's
Certainly
hand's been up
invite
for a
Joy-
while, so I'd
Jane
like to get to
see
her.
if she'll come.
Commissioner Klaus?
Thank you. I think my question has kind of been answered indirectly if we're going to have a planning session around this topic, but I was wondering, maybe to avoid having like lengthy conversations like this in the future, is there any way we could get, or maybe we already have like a list of positions that aren't attached to the class and comp study that might be coming before us in the near future, so that Commissioner Edwards' concerns, I mean, I do think that Commissioner Edwards raises valid concerns, but I also agree with what I'm hearing from Commissioner Mejia about advocating for this position, because if we have the opportunity to do it, why don't we do it for this position rather than waiting for us to figure out all of the positions at once, because we know we're not going to be able to afford all of the changes at one time. But if we're going to do this in a planning session, then maybe that's a conversation for then.
So Maria is putting together a list so we can see all of those that have been requested.
And I sort of want to see the opposite list of Commissioner Klaus. I'd like to see the ones that you're saying are connected across
Yes.
departments that would be in this block of should be handled in a thing versus just random here, there, and everywhere.
Part of what we're exploring.
Are we a little off topic? Because I mean, we're talking about something that we should be talking about at a different point and not what's on the agenda.
What we're talking about is whether or not commissioners are willing for this item to go forward at this
Based
time.
on all these other things.
On all of
Yeah.
this.
And like, what's the
So
answer? I guess where are we
appreciate your
at?
time check, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so the question is, are we going to move forward next Tuesday with this reclass
Or
versus
do you want to,
pausing it for 2 weeks or a month or until a conversation that is going to happen in the 26th is, I guess commissioners need to just kind of get to the decision point, keep it on or take it off. Which would be, it sounds like we all agree it would be a temporary taking off if we take it off. But do we need to take it off at all? Commissioner Mejia, I think you would say no.
Yeah, I think we should move forward. I'll be right there. One sec.
I'd like to move forward with it because I think the decision, I mean, the decision for this specific thing to me is obvious. I wouldn't want to move it anywhere off unless there was a hard and fast answer of when that decision point is going to be made and what we need to talk about, because I think that all this other stuff is still pretty high up in the air. And even if we have a briefing on it 3 weeks from now, we're not going to have answers for those things that are coming up today. But this is answerable right now in my mind.
Commissioner Klaus, would you like to keep this on or take it off?
I think we should keep it on.
So it looks like
No,
there's 3 votes.
here's the deal. Here's where I'm at. I think I've been an advocate for our employees in Thurston County all along. And I want them to know that we as a board are trying to come up with a fix with this situation. So I'm advocating for them as a group, I don't know, 1,200 of them or whatever there is. And I'm advocating for the individual issues as they come forward. I just want them to know we're trying to come up with a real fix. We've talked about it, we've kicked the can down the road. I think by even having this discussion, and our employees pay attention to this, don't worry, I mean, it's gonna be talked about amongst our employees. I don't wanna have an unfair labor practice brought against us for doing something inappropriate. So at least we've now let them know through this discussion that all of us are aware and that we're very concerned that we get this done. So, if I get another one that's brought before me, I'm also gonna
Please
approve
let me
that.
know.
So
Yeah,
I'm gonna say, yes, let's go ahead and move ahead with this. But if I get one next week that's brand new, I'm gonna say yes, because I recognize the need. I just don't wanna be in a situation where we're picking winners and losers. And we have made a decision, which right here today, looks like everybody's agreed, we're moving forward. And so for those managers that are watching, those other elected officials that are watching, I think they probably feel they've got a pretty good chance of their very important situation. We happen to know what this position does. So we have a little extra knowledge here.
Yeah.
Many of these other positions, we don't have a clue, you know, and we're depending on our elected officials and our department directors to help us with that information. They recognize those needs, so maybe they can help push us along to get this accomplished. So yeah, I'm fine with giving it.
All right, so let's go to E, which is wonderfully timed, human resources to resolution creating classifications and position in the Thurston County pay plans.
yes, these positions were new positions that were included and approved in the budget, but the classification did not exist. So offices and departments have been working with each HR to develop the classifications. Those have been done now, and as a bundle, they are presented to the board to approve the new classification and the positions that go with them. Technically, the board said yes to these in the budget. It just took a little while to set up the classification.
Everybody,
I'm not gonna talk about it.
I mean, I'm just looking at the list and making sure commissioners remember all of these different ones that. Any questions or concerns from board? All right. Move forward to F, Public Health and Social Services, appointments to the Regional Housing Council's Affordable Housing Advisory Board and the Homeless Services Advisory Board.
These would be appointments to committees that advise the Regional Housing Council on matters of affordable housing and homeless services. They are at the request and recommendation of the Regional Housing Council. And I think we've got Alex online if the board has any questions about them.
Okay, questions for Alex?
No.
I guess I'm just a little slow this morning. I'm not, remember, like, these are, who picks, I mean, we're not debating these the way we debate all of our other advisory boards. Is this because some other group has picked them and we're just kind of rubber stamping them? Or can someone remind me how these work?
So you've got the Regional Housing Council, and this is like little subcommittees that advise the Housing
I know
Council.
who they are, but who picks these members?
So
Regional
Alex,
Housing Council and the technical team meet together and they do interviews for these advisory boards. Alex, I'll let you.
That's correct. Thank you, Commissioner McGill. We have the two advisory boards, and since this has been a year since the boards have been created, they created their own subcommittee made up of members from the boards, and so they were the ones who went through the scoring of the applications and the interviewing. And they included other members from the Regional Housing Council if they were available to participate in the interviews. Then they recommended to the Regional Housing Council to appoint these members to the board. And now the Regional Housing Council, the next step is you all. So now it's your turn to rubber stamp yes and approve these members.
Were you part of that process?
I was not, Commissioner Klaus, were you?
No, I was not either, unfortunately.
I was when we first did it.
Okay. Well, I know Ms. Hennon. I don't know the others, but I guess I don't have any issues per se. Any other questions? Yep.
It's not about this, but this is the first time I've seen Alex pop up in one of the meetings, and I continue to hear great things about you. So keep up the good work. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you so much.
All right, let's go then to item 3G. Auditor, actually G and H are both voucher lists. Week of March 4th, week of March 11th.
Right, so the first one, item G, we have the voucher list. There are no costs that I could see at a glance that were tied to the atrium. And item H, we don't have that yet, but as soon as we do have it, we'll add the dollar amount for the list, and I'll review that before I ask you to move it.
Any other questions on H, G and H? Seeing none, we'll go to department items 4A, Community Planning and Economic Development, Ordinance for A25 Forest Lands Conversion Code Update. And here's CPED team members to answer questions or?
So this is a change to the county ordinance. These are changes on forest land conversion and tree protection standards. The development of these changes involved broad stakeholder representation. The Planning Commission then held 2 work sessions and a public hearing, voted to recommend board approval. The board held 2 work sessions, and on February 6th, held a public hearing, and had your final work session on February 26th, directing staff to put the amendment on the agenda. And we have folks here who can answer your questions much better than I could.
Dana and Andy, any questions for them?
We've gone over this a few times.
Nope, okay. Yeah, I'm not sure if this is where everything should land ultimately, but the 2 things I know is that these changes are positive and that a credible work to sort of keep, get stakeholders, aligned with what's going on and pretty positive about it. I think it's been a really, good job to get to take a really potentially sensitive and very complicated topic, and I'm getting mostly positive feedback, and I did not expect that on something like this. So excellent work. See how it goes, and we'll keep monitoring things and see if it's accomplishing what we want it to accomplish. Any other questions for these guys? Thank you. Next up is 5A, Public Health and Social Services Contract Award for the Thurston County Hazardous Waste Management Plan Update.
The county issued an RFP for a consultant who will update the hazardous waste management plan, which was last updated about 10 years ago. 1 bid was received, and the Board of County Commissioner authorized on February 6th the negotiation of that contract. Negotiations are complete, and we are now requesting the authorization to enter into the contract. This contract will be paid 75% with a grant from Ecology and 25%, which is the required match, from tipping fees. And we've got Kimberly online to answer any questions that you may have.
Questions?
Does this have something to do with Hazel House?
I believe that is part of it, yes, it will encompass that. Just as far as detailing what we do with Hazo House.
But it isn't getting rid of the product we already
Yep.
put out there.
This is a plan.
RFP or, that's done, right?
That part's done.
Yeah.
And this is not the handling of the waste, this is to create a plan for how we handle it in the future.
In the future, okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, good to go. Let's go on to item 5B, contract for Trillium Housing Services.
This item is a, funding for the Lansdale, Point project, which will create 162 units of affordable housing for individuals who have income that is below 60% of the area's median income. It's going to be a mix of 1, 2, 3, and 4 bedroom apartments. And the total cost of the project is $53 million, approximately. The developer, Southport Financial, has secured full funding for the project. And the RHC has recommended funding of $2,650,000, of which $1,325,000 is from the county home fund, and $1,325,000 is from the Olympia Home Fund. Those two funds are pooled together to create this source. The county will contract with Trillium Housing Services, who are serving as a general partner and a service provider in the future. And we have Alex here again, who can answer your questions about the project.
I just want to add one point that the board wrote a letter of support for this project to the Department of Commerce. So just as a reminder, we were supportive of this project when they were applying for this grant through the Department of Commerce to get this funding.
Do you have questions? I have a couple. Go ahead, Commissioner.
So the dollar amount from Commerce is what?
I'm not sure how much is coming specifically from Department of Commerce, but the overall project is $53 million. So Alex, can you say what the other funding sources are that make up that $53 million?
I'm pulling it up right now and I can let you know. So sorry. It looks like they're getting a construction loan of 47 million, and they have equity of 24 million. It doesn't list out the Commerce award.
If I can jump in, this is Tom Webster. The primary source of funding is the 4% low-income housing tax credit from the Washington State Housing Finance Commission. So a lot of the projects we funded in the past have been a 9% tax credit. This qualified under the 4% tax credit. And so that will be, I don't know if they received Housing Trust Fund dollars. We can follow up and get the full funding package, but a majority of the funding is under the WSFIC Housing Finance Commission's 4% tax credit program.
And was there ARPA funds in this?
Not that I'm aware.
No,
Not even from Commerce?
no, not that we're aware of.
Tom, can you describe this? It's been a while since I've remembered what this project's actually gonna do, like how many units, who's gonna get to be in them? How is it gonna, what hole is it gonna plug in our community?
Yeah, so again, as Robin said, it's 162 units. So I think it's the largest development we've ever supported. It's quite a large project, and the target population is those that 60% or below of area median income. So this is really going to be some people who may be coming from homelessness, but primarily those who are maybe kind of categorized as kind of working poor, folks with minimum wage jobs, families. So it's going to fill a huge need in our community for this target population of below 60%. So folks who have some income can make some rent, but probably can't afford full market rent within the city of in Thurston County these days.
And Southport was mentioned, but it says here Trillium Housing Services. Who are these? I mean, who's doing what? How do those connect to each other?
Yeah, good question, and Alex can jump in as well. So Southport is the organization, is a for-profit developer. They approached the Regional Housing Council last January, February of 2023 and presented this proposal. And that's the letter that Commissioner Mejia referred to, that the RHC and this board sent to the Washington Housing Finance Commission supporting this project. However, for purposes of the tax credits, the way the deal is structured, it's beneficial to have a nonprofit as the lead agency. So Trillium is a nonprofit agency that has worked with Southport in the past. They're based out of Tacoma. And so they're the agency that will actually contract with, but Southport is the lead developer. Trillium is the nonprofit. For our understanding, it's primarily for the tax credit purposes of how the deal is structured.
And then, so thinking through this, this is housing that would be, it's not permanent supportive housing, it's housing for folks that don't, they don't need services, they just need a more affordable housing. So is there, so the home fund monies, they're just basically a one-time capital expenditure it's not an ongoing
That's correct.
subsidy of any kind, okay. And then the units remain affordable, what's the mechanism by which that occurs?
Yeah, so we would put a lien, we use deeds of trust and covenants, and for this would be for 20 years. So a minimum of 20 years. The tax credits, actually requirements will go beyond that. The tax credits will probably be for 40 years of requirements.
40 years.
Okay, perfect. Those I think were my main questions. Yeah, Commissioner Edwards.
Who will actually be with it? Okay, now we got the project finished. Now we're gonna select, folks that have made application. Who's in charge of that? We're gonna fill these units now.
It's the landlord.
Pardon?
The landlord, it'll probably be Trillium. If they're the general partner, they're gonna manage the property.
Is that, I guess that's right. I mean,
Yes, that's Alex, do you have more information on that?
And where
It will
is
be
this
Trillium.
gonna be located at, the physical location?
Off of Burr Road.
Around here.
I have the address.
It's,
911 Burr Road Southeast in Olympia.
It's around here. So.
and the community knows this is coming, right?
I don't know. I know Southport has done some outreach, and this project's been discussed for a while. I don't know what specifically outreach has been done to the community.
I mean, I guess I would hope they would know that it's coming, just because otherwise you get roadblocks thrown in front of you.
Be a permitted housing project like any
Yeah.
other.
Just an apartment.
That is
Yeah, it's an apartment.
It's an apartment complex. Is there?
We know they've been working with, we know they've been working with the City of Olympia planning to get the various permitting processes. So they have been engaged with the City of Olympia for permitting.
And this will be subsidized units, is that right? Everybody will pay maybe a little different rent, depending on their circumstance. And
Yeah, because of the financing, there will be below market rents that are affordable to the different, at that 60% area median income.
is there going to be any criteria that we help seniors, veterans, women and children, locals? Is there a criteria list of who we will help and in what order at this point in time in place yet?
I would say probably not. I'm gonna jump in because if the major funder is the Housing Finance Commission, they're going to have their own set of rules. Thurston County and the City of Olympia are putting in a very small percentage of this project.
But don't they have to follow rules from HUD?
They will have to follow the HUD rules, which require non-discrimination.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you. I think that we got that one. Appreciate it. Public Works is up with a whole series of items. Next, 6A is resolution call for sealed bids for furnishing a supply of various asphalt materials.
So this item establishes a vendor list for various materials that are required for road work during the upcoming construction season. Having these bids in place enables Public Works to obtain the materials they need for construction faster than if they had to go out to bid project by project. So this establishes a list of vendors we can call on for the products that we need.
Questions on this item?
No, not for me. We need to build roads. We better get the stuff.
All right, thanks, Mike. Let's go to 6B, resolution granting a non-exclusive franchise to Public Utility District Number 1 of Thurston County for a water system within Thurston County rights of way. This is what we had a public hearing on, correct?
There will be.
There will be.
So.
Oh, we haven't had it yet?
This is a resolution, that continues a, franchise agreement with the Public Utilities District Number 1. The PUD currently has a water system that is operating in part in, unincorporated county rights of way. This franchise agreement, continues the ability of the PUD to do maintenance and operations for the system, and continues the agreement that they have to be in the county's rights of way.
We're gonna have the hearing first before we take the vote, right?
We already had a public hearing. This is Craig Sisson, Real Estate Manager for Thurston County Public Works. This is the meeting that we had last week.
Right.
Of what we didn't hear any complaints from.
There were no complaints, no comments submitted at all, either in favor or in opposition. So this is the resolution that actually grants the franchise.
You should feel good about this. The county has had a very cooperative relationship with Thurston PUD. They're all over our right of way throughout the county. We work closely with them we're working with them on the Country Club project right now. We're relocating some of their facilities for them as part of our project. So it's a good relationship and we should feel good entering into this agreement with them.
Any questions? Okay, very good. Let's go to C, execute license and indemnity agreement for a private power line.
So for this item, we have a citizen in the county who intends to construct a private power line that, it's my understanding, will cross under Zangle Road.
Correct.
And Thurston County Code requires that prior to that construction, that the individual executes with the county an indemnity agreement that is to protect the county from risk involved with any issues that come up connected to this private power line. So this is in accordance with Thurston County Code and mitigates risk for the county.
And Todd says it's okay.
It's okay. And just for clarification, we do the indemnity agreements for private individuals that want to cross our right of way with utilities, similar to the companies that do the franchise agreements that are going to be doing more extensive stuff throughout the county.
And we've done this with water lines and power lines.
Yeah, you see me quite a bit for the septic going across. This one, my understanding is they're putting in solar panels across the street want to bring power over. So it'd be a conduit underneath the road.
I think the last one you saw was on Raccoon Valley.
Correct,
For
yeah,
a
for the septic.
line that was going underneath the right of way.
We gotta get some credit for it. Are we trying to build up credit on the enviro end of things? How many bolts are gonna be developed or whatever at the solar panels?
Do they cut into the asphalt?
Well, per our road standards, they're going to have to try to push underneath because we'd rather not have the open cut. If they're unable to, they have to try 3 attempts at that. If they're unable to, then we'll allow the open cut with patching detail.
I think up at Summit Lake, they couldn't drill through all the rock. up
No,
there.
yeah,
So
that
they had-
typically has to be open cut.
Okay, anything else? Thank you. Next up is D, 6D, Park Foundation Memorandum of Agreement.
This is the agreement that you reviewed yesterday with the Thurston County Park Foundation. This would be a MOU with Park, for their support of the, county parks. And we will add a clause, to also develop, should the board, wish to go down this route, art and culture aspect of this agreement.
So just to follow up on that, Karen Weiss, Assistant Public Works Director. We were already able to get a hold of the Park Foundation. We have added language into the draft agreement that would be coming forward to you. They've given their okay on it. It just adds in potential for fundraising and support for arts and cultural heritage programs. So they have no issue with that, and so we should be able to be bringing that forward to you next week.
Awesome.
For your consideration.
Any questions for Karen? That's good, thank you.
Okay.
Up next is 6E, Public Works Tilly Campus Conference Rooms Technology Equipment Upgrades.
Public Works is upgrading the technology in 2 of the conference rooms at Tilly. They are using state contracts for the equipment. The projects have been reviewed by the ITC subcommittee, who recommends approval, and the projects are being paid from Public Works funds.
Just so you know, if you start asking me technical questions, I brought Joe Barlin, our IT guru, with me because I will not attempt to do that. But these are 2 very high usage conference rooms for us. One is the dispatch room that's used daily. All of our infrastructure in both of these is over a decade old, and it's just frankly failing and deteriorating. One of our presentation screens, you can't even see the difference in colors. So we're proposing a holistic upgrade of that presentation system. We use these a lot for both internal and external party presentations. The dispatch room, which is over in our building A on the campus, is actually a part of the county's emergency response continuity of operations plan. So it needs to be functioning in those situations. And then the second room is it's called the Rainier Room. I think you have a Rainier Room here, not to be confused with that, but it's a highly visible room right off of our lobby when you enter our building C for the public. It's used for contractors, guests, and also used a lot for collaboration and staff meetings. We have public-facing meetings that are held out of there. The Solid Waste Advisory Committee meeting is held in there, Noxious Weed Board, and Utility Advisory Committee. So, again, this is over 10-year-old equipment. It's just honestly not failing. It's failing and not meeting our needs, and so we're proposing an upgrade of the technology.
This was not a budget request?
It's already, we can absorb that across our funds within our existing budget.
Is this an M&O thing on their building?
I would say yes.
We do not have reserves collected for the Tilly campus technology at this point. Going forward, it will be, but this is not covered under maintenance and operations.
Yeah, and when you talk about Public Works Fund, is that the road fund, the tipping fee?
It's a variety of funds.
Yeah,
Spread
so
out amongst them all.
it's a shared use,
Right.
like our
Right.
60/40
Right.
thing,
That's
right?
It is.
Only out of dedicated funds.
That's right.
Got
Okay.
it. Looks good.
I don't hear any.
I think I was in there the other day at a meeting and something didn't work.
And not
Did
for
you
Joe
touch
doing
it?
his very best to try, let me tell
Yeah.
you. The old duct tape and chewing gum right now with some of that, so.
Thank you, Karen.
Okay, then we'll have standing items and then a public hearing at 3:30 on, man, I feel like this item's come up at least like a dozen times. Public hearing for continuing a telecommunications franchise agreement with Michelle Telecom, Inc., DBA Light Curve.
Right, it's my understanding that Nicole has briefed you on this item.
Many times.
She apologizes, she is out today. But this is to extend an existing franchise agreement with Michelle Telecom for telecommunications in Thurston County rights of way. State law requires a public hearing. So this is the public hearing on this item. It has been reviewed and actually developed by our prosecuting attorney's office in coordination with Ken Feldman, who is a national expert on telecom agreements, so. The public hearing.
Questions?
Simple action, too, there's two motions.
Right.
Right, we would hope that, we don't expect any public comment on this, we've heard nothing so far.
Famous
We
last
generally
words.
hear nothing on these actions. So we would hope that the board would not only close the public hearing, but also approve the agreement.
Why, sir?
We're about ready to close out after we talk about transportation, right? We're gonna be done with this agenda item. I was just gonna ask about, I didn't wanna bring
There's a
this
whole
up.
deep TBD agenda and then there's the rest of the.
Yeah,
work
yeah,
session.
but I mean, we're gonna get away from this one. There was one issue I wanted to just
Yeah,
ask the
double back.
I wanted to kind of double back on, and that is under the consent, where, under G and H, it seems like on H, we don't have a dollar amount, so we can't make any decisions there yet, because it's
Because
just
we
not
don't
there.
have the
It's not there
measurements,
yet.
yes.
Yeah, we just
Yeah,
haven't seen that.
we're waiting on
To
it.
go over it. And then on G, I've just got a question again about that parking. We've got two parking lots that we get with this building, and then we've got a separate one that we're leasing outside of what we got with this building. I'm just trying to
That's right.
get my head around this. So where are those
So-
three parking lots?
The first lot is the one that surrounds the
Okay.
building.
Yep,
The second lot is directly across the street,
right,
kind of behind the wedding shop.
yep,
And the third lot is the fenced,
In there,
secure
yeah.
parking for county
and
vehicles.
that's the one we keep paying
That's that
$1,600
third
on,
lot.
right?
Yes, and it's separate because we had already entered into the lease agreement when we determined that there were not enough parking spaces for all of the county vehicles and all of our employees in this building with just the two. So we asked what else is available, and it's the lot across, the small lot.
Okay, and so that is, it was never intended that it would be part of it. I thought we were gonna get all adequate parking when we leased the building, that's all.
Once we knew what the numbers were and had verified the number of county vehicles that were coming to this property, and the number, I will say, kind of grew as the project moved along. When we knew how many were actually coming, we knew we needed more space.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, very good. Then let's go back to, we've covered that. Okay, so now we go to the Transportation Benefit District meeting. I don't know who the president of that is, but it's not me, so.
I nominate
One of the
Ty
things
Mentor.
that
Somebody
needs
else
to be
can-
determined.
Don't steal my thunder. Is it Commissioner
I'm
Mejia?
gonna turn this whole thing.
Can we take a, let's go ahead and take a 3-minute break. 3-minute break?
Drum roll, President is Commissioner Mejia. And Vice President will be Commissioner Klaus.
Commissioner Klaus. Okay,
Are we
So we
taking?
are
yeah,
taking.
5-minute break.
Oh, you were serious?
Ah,
I thought you were joking.
Cafe, I need coffee.
we are back with the Transportation Benefit District agenda review for March 19th. Call the meeting to order at 3:30. There will be approval of the March 19th, 2024 agenda, and then approval of the meeting minutes from March 21st, 2023, which Marcy has already sent out for everyone to review. Next, there will be an opportunity for the public to address the board. And we'll kick off with department items. Item 3A is to ratify the assignment of Thurston County Transportation Benefit District officers for 2024.
And I'll repeat myself, what I said before I got cut off, is that Commissioner Mejia will once again be the president of the TBD, and Commissioner Klaus will step in as the vice president.
Any questions on that item? Okay, item 3B, resolution amending the Thurston County Transportation Benefit District Charter. And can this be tackled on with 3C as well, which is the?
Yeah, I can summarize both of them in one.
Okay, so and 3C is the resolution amending Thurston County Transportation Benefit District bylaws. So 3B and 3C.
So this is just some housekeeping items to update the Transportation Benefit District from a from a 3-member board to a 5-member board. Cleaning up some meeting times and locations. It still had the courthouse location. That's about it.
Any questions? And this covers item 3D as well.
3D.
Yeah. Which is the meeting schedule to reflect a change in meeting location.
Yep.
So.
Is it gonna be like, I know at one point we were doing quarterly, but are we doing only like once a year or?
We're proposing quarterly.
Okay, so that'll be in the schedule?
Yes.
Any other questions?
Will we be taking a vote on that? I don't know as I agree it needs to be quarterly, so.
I believe there is an action on that one.
An action issue.
Everything has it.
It's a department item, so they'll all be separate votes.
Okay.
You don't agree that it should be quarterly?
I just don't see a need for it to be quarterly. It just takes up time and we've never done anything. And if we keep putting money into it at some point, when they do create a funding source, it's gonna have to pay that money back, that's all. So I think right now it's a waste unless there's some move afoot to do something.
Well, we did it quarterly, and then what we've done in the past is, the president has met with Jennifer, and if there's like really nothing, then we'll go ahead and just cancel it. Like last year, we had it quarterly, but we had that first meeting that we had to have, and then after that, we just ended up canceling for the rest of the year because there was nothing that needed to come from the TBD.
Okay, so that's
onto
the prerogative of the president? Then?
Well, yeah, if there's no items that the board members bring up either, to,
I'm just
The
trying to
Director of
keep
Public
from,
Works,
I'm
yeah.
trying to keep from wasting time, which equates to money, which needs to be paid back at a later date.
Commissioner Mejia is 100% right. Last year, I believe we only met one time.
Okay,
Once.
Yep.
okay, good enough. It's pretty short meeting. if I
Are you
remember.
not considering the
Yes.
passing a TBD tax at this point? or
well,
fees
I will be discussing
And
that.
so,
As the Board of County Commissioners?
and that's what the presentation is going to do. I believe that's item 3E. We'll be explaining what the TBD, how we got to where we're at today, what kind of projects the TBD can fund, and then what kind of funding options there are, and then staff will be seeking a direction going forward on how to proceed with the TBD.
It's 3F.
Sorry, 3F.
Okay, so item 3E is to the 2023 Thurston County Transportation Benefit District Annual Report.
I do this annual report every year. We're not funding any projects right now, so it's not an extensive report. I'll provide a summary of the officers. If there's no projects to report on, it'll be a very quick report.
Questions? Okay, and then the last item, we've touched a little bit on it, is the overview of the Thurston County Transportation Benefit District funding options and next steps.
And I can expand further if needed.
Okay, any questions on that item? Okay. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Passing it right back to the chair.
Okay, great. Next up is proclamations and awards. We have a summary sheet in the packet. Looks like the next proclamation, there will not be one for the March 19th, but we'll have two on April 2nd. Child Abuse Awareness Month, Volunteer Appreciation Month.
I have no further updates.
Okay,
Can I have,
yes, ma'am.
I've been asked for Child Abuse Awareness Month if they can do the pinwheels at county locations, inside the atrium. Yes. They did them last year and they're asking if this year we would like boxes to add
They
pinwheels.
disappear
And
pretty
they
quick.
disappeared. They
But that
disappeared.
was okay.
They were there for a little bit and then they disappeared.
There's no reason not to.
I don't see any concern about that, so. I see Travis here. Is he checking in for a particular reason related to our?
Because, yes, the suggestion of being able to have legal counsel available at the end, if there were any kind of residual questions that the board might have. This was an
Go for it,
opportunity to kind
Gary.
of parking lot.
Are we gonna talk about labor law?
I wrote down, yeah,
You certainly,
I've just, as a, getting in the habit, I just started writing down, and the only one that's come up this morning was your question about the labor issue and fair labor practice, if you wanted, I mean, obviously, that's not something we're gonna get an answer on, but if you wanted to flag an issue for Travis, it's your opportunity.
Travis, I hate to put you on the spot, but Jane usually does our labor issues. You know, and, did you by any chance hear our conversation this morning about classifications and such?
Yes, I didn't hear in detail, but I know of the issue, and I think, Jane will likely be able to attend your next meeting with the Human Resources Director. I think that'd be the best place to address any legal concerns. Because I won't be able to, answer those questions on the spot, and I think there's more facts that need to come to light.
Sometime around 9:30 this morning, we had a discussion for, I don't know.
I will flag that and let Jane know that, to review that discussion before you all get together, and we'll make sure we can get you support. And I'll just say, as a general matter, just to loop back on moving forward here, is our plan is to continue to have this check-in on 2 Tuesdays every month. And the idea is that we'll have a set time, a half hour before the scheduled end, and I will be available here to facilitate, just like we're doing here. And we may even, I talked to Assistant County Manager about the idea of adding it on the agenda just as a standing appointment that, we can then manage from here moving forward. But I think that's a good idea, and I'll continue to check in as needed. So appreciate the suggestions and the conversation, and if there's nothing else, I can get back to things, but happy to entertain any other questions.
Hold on, Robin's got something.
don't go away yet.
That's it for me, sir.
Oh, you just want him to hang out?
I would love for him to be here for the animal services.
Okay, we'll get there.
Sounds good.
We'll get there shortly. So there is nothing further on proclamation awards, so we're up to advisory boards and commissions.
We have received 5 applications for the Board of Equalization, or BOE. You'll see on page 2 in your packet on the BOE roster, 3 members and 2 alternates are currently serving, with a vacancy for each regular member and an alternate member. In addition to that, Stan Hust, regular member, and John Graver, alternate member, expired on March 1. Dan has applied for reappointment, and John has also applied, but it does indicate on his application that he would like to be considered for a regular member seat.
Someone who's currently an alternate.
And another alternate member, Ted May also applied for the regular member that was vacant, along with 2 other individuals. And Ruth Elder expects the BOE to forward a recommendation for the vacant regular member seat very soon, and then begin their process for reviewing applicants for the alternate seat. So this is really just informational at this time.
Commissioner Mejia?
I know that there had been a previous applicant for the BOE, and we were kind of waiting for this information. I don't see their name on here, and I'm wondering,
I can check with Ruth if she's received.
What was that?
I can check with Ruth. I'm not aware of another applicant.
It was turned in a while ago, and it had been on all these previous meetings, but it hadn't come as a recommendation from the BOE to make that appointment.
I'll confirm with Ruth that that applicant was included in their review.
But weren't we going to continue on all of our committees and commissions? There's gonna be a recommendation by the body, I guess, in some cases, but aren't we gonna see all the applications? Wasn't that something we talked about? I just don't
Came
recall.
up with the ag
Commissioner
advisory board.
Mejia brought it up with respect to one of the particular, we usually do see all the applications, and
so here we're not seeing it.
No, they're all in the packet.
We had
the applications are in.
I see.
Minus that one potential older one.
Yeah, they had sat there for a while.
But, yeah, I mean,
Didn't come-
it's sat there, but it's new because we were putting that off because revitalization was gonna weigh in on that candidate or whatever, and that never happened. So it's from my perspective, a current application.
Got it. I will circle back with Ruth.
So does anything need to,
Nope. This is just informational at this time.
all right, so we're just gonna have to, go ahead.
Oh, just for the Fair Board, last week, Commissioner Klaus asked about all the students being kind of from the same school. I found out also that they're all from the same grade and they're all in FAA, and they all do pigs. I think it was just a recruitment process that they did. 2 out of the 3 students were there, and they, said that it's something that they look forward to every year. They wanted to get more involved, and so they saw this as an opportunity to get more involved. And so their connection through the FIA kind of connected them with the Fair Board, and that's how they basically ended up applying. And I mean, all seem to be very excited about possibly joining the Fair Board. FFA, thank you for correcting me. I'm happy.
Discreetly.
Sorry. But
So
they-
we have 3 youth at large vacancies and 3 applicants.
Yeah.
And the fair's coming. Do we want to get them appointed, or is there a desire to keep this open longer? I don't know.
I mean,
A lot of times we just.
any reason we wouldn't wanna move ahead with the appointments?
I-
Get it over
They
with?
match the open
Yeah.
seats, especially with the fair coming quickly.
There weren't any concerns from the Fair Board, and the kids seemed very excited to participate, so.
You have something, Matt?
Just a quick clarifying question on the additional paper on Fair Board. It says that one has to be from 4-H, one has to be from FFA, and one has to be from open class. Is that a recommendation or is that a requirement?
That is a requirement, and from the applications, it looks like one applicant
Is a member of FFA and also 4-H. And my recollection of open class is that you can be a member that is not a part of a certain club or age group or division. So I think they would all 3 fit.
So, as a general point, I really think we need to take this form and add a column for like special requirements. Whether it's a district, whether they have to be from the business community, whether there's something like what's happening. That's something that we ought to be able to look at a summary sheet and know. Because otherwise we would have just potentially appointed people in conflict with our own code and
I don't even think the Fair Board knows that because the conversation that took place was, the kids were asked different questions and interest, why they're interested in the Fair Board, kind of what grade they're in, what group do they participate in, and just to give kind of like a summary of themselves. There was no point where it was like, oh, they're disqualified because one is not in this group, and this is what we're missing. So I don't know if they know that as well.
In the composition, I think, is one of the items that'll be coming forward to the board to update, given the change to 5 commissioners. So it will be an opportunity to offer more flexibility. That section of it, it's a conversation the board can have.
Yeah, I mean,
Too restrictive.
I'm getting a little bit higher level, but I almost feel like this item really needs to be like on one of like maybe every other week on one of our work sessions that's not the agenda setting. Because I always feel like there's always so much detail and so much effort that needs to go into this, and it really needs to be like half an hour discussion every week or two to get it all right. And we're always like rushed, and I don't know whether to elevate. It doesn't fit here well, in my opinion. These advisory boards take so much time and effort to get them sorted through and get them right and discuss the applicants and all the different, permutations of each group, and it just doesn't fit into agenda setting where we're always tight for time. Yep.
I agree with you. I think that's why we need to have a staff person that participates with those folks that can kind of give us the lowdown on that group right at that point in time and answer those questions that you've got. And I agree.
It's something we can maybe talk about.
Okay, we'll think about where we would put this as a standing item, not on Tuesday mornings.
Fit for give it like a 20-30 minutes of allocation in wherever it's going instead of feeling.
Commissioners check-in on Monday afternoon. Starting to load that up now, so.
Yeah, wherever it is, but anyway.
Let's look at the briefings.
In the first and third weeks, we actually have a longer amount of time together. It's these second and fourth that we have a truncated amount of time for the agenda setting. So it might be possible to switch weeks, so it's an alternating.
First thing Wednesday morning, since we won't be doing the ledge update, and maybe we do this instead. We'll figure it out. We can look at the calendar and figure something out.
I imagine the high school appointments are typically a year. Is that fair?
Yes.
They graduate high school and then they go on. So I wouldn't want to hold this up, but maybe in the future, I'd rather see them be required to be from different schools. I think that maybe not one from each school, but I think it would be good to say, spread it around the county, but not hold it up right now.
Something aspirational to kind of work toward.
Yeah. Because I don't recall ever having more youth applicants than slots ever. They've been vacant for a while, then we've had them filled, but then people graduate. And it becomes a thing that's part of like FFA programs throughout the county. They're pretty diligent. Okay. And if they know those opportunities are there, they program that into their annual plans and service on the county fair board. Okay, so did anything else need to be addressed today? Looking at the clerk.
Just if you, for direction for the fair board appointments.
Do we want to elevate the 3 youth fair board?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, let's just do that.
Perfect, thank you.
We can have another discussion about those slots later. Okay, then let's go on to commissioner items. First up is animal services citations. Just to try to make this quick,
There was the last meeting of the board where you met with animal services. The concern was raised again regarding citation books. So I've been working with Travis, who looked into this issue, and under current state law and county code, the Board of County Commissioners has the authority, and actually already has, authorized animal services to issue citations for civil penalties, and issue citations based on probable cause to offenders for civil infractions and misdemeanor and gross misdemeanor violations. So really, it's up to you, not the sheriff, to authorize JASCOM to issue citations. And again, county code, state law and county code already allows for that. So what Travis has recommended, and he's, thank you for sticking around, Travis, is that the Board of County Commissioners enter into an MOU with JASCOM specifically for this purpose, and then they would print their own citation book. It would be lovely if the sheriff would give them access to the system, but he doesn't appear to be going to do that. They don't need to get the citation book from the sheriff or the court. They can get their own printed. So if the board is willing to go down that path, then we can work with Sarah and draft up the MOU.
I have a
It's
question.
that easy.
So Commissioner Fournier.
I have reservations. You know, like there's a reason that there's stringent processes and controls in giving commissions and giving people the authority to issue, you know, summonses to court and civil infractions. And it's very tightly regulated for law enforcement officers, and I feel it should be for the varying degrees of law enforcement officers as well. And that's what this is. You know, these would be individuals that are responsible for specific codes, and they are law enforcement officials with limited commissions. And these are folks that are completely out of our control on hiring processes. I much prefer to see folks that are given this authority to have processes and to have hiring, you know, conditions. When we heard the report from JASCOM, it was basically, we've reduced all of those requirements. Our hiring processes no longer are so stringent. It was, you know, it kind of, they went a completely different direction in hiring of law enforcement officers, which is what these people are, than the entire rest of the state has required. And I have reservations about farming out law enforcement authority outside government agency, outside of, you know, government controls.
This is a government agency. It's
JASCOM,
quasi.
they're a nonprofit.
They're a quasi-government. Their entire board is government elected officials.
Not their entire board, they've got citizens on there, I think.
We have a
There's
veterinarian
citizens on
seat.
their board?
Yeah, I think
Yeah, there's a veterinarian seat
Veterinarian.
and a humane society seat.
But for those reasons, I have reservations. And, you know, like, if you want to be a law enforcement officer, polygraph, psych, you know, like, there's stringent requirements that the state and everyone in the state has said we need to put on these folks. And this is not that. And that's why I don't believe that the sheriff would allow them to have access to those things, because they haven't been vetted.
Not up to the sheriff.
Well, you're saying it would be nice if he would allow them that. There's reasons he's not allowing them that. And that,
I understand you have concerns.
Yeah, I guess I don't need to repeat what's already been said. I guess I'm concerned for the same reasons, you know, and I think that's why the sheriff's been concerned in the past. I don't have the solution right now, other than the hiring process would have to be different. They have to meet certain criteria, so the mayor's pretty well explained it.
So what is it that you're just, this is being brought forward just to let us know that we have this ability to authorize
Yes.
animal field officers?
There was, the legal question was raised at the last meeting, who actually has the authority to authorize animal services to issue these citations? Board of County Commissioners do. And in fact, that authority already exists in county code. So it's, at some point in time, I didn't look at the year, but some board did authorize. JASCOM had been issuing citations. I believe that there was a change in practice. At the time, a director turned over, because there've been a few directors over the last decade. So I don't know why the practice changed, but it did. But at this point, it's up to the board. There are concerns that too many calls are going to the county sheriff for minor things, and that the county sheriff is not necessarily responding to them, where JASCOM potentially has the capacity and the ability. They just don't have tickets to issue.
So you said civil penalties as well as misdemeanors, criminal?
What the law allows, RCW allows for, to issue citations based on probable cause to offenders for civil infractions, misdemeanors, and gross misdemeanor violations.
Travis, I'm gonna look at you. I'm just trying to fish for a compromise here, because frankly, CPED issues violations of civil
Exactly.
penalties, and they don't have all that law enforcement training,
They
so.
could, they could though.
Could we limit JASCOM to civil infractions and kind of cut the criminal, not give them authority to bring people up for criminal offenses, but give them civil infraction authority? Could we line as a board?
Yeah, I think there's, I mean, the authority question is fairly clear. There's a lot at your disposal. Whether you want to exercise that discretion, there's probably a range. I'll say this just in terms of the framework of your authority. Now, JASCOM cannot, by law, arrest, put a person in custody, execute warrants. Those are all things that are not, cannot be commissioned. So the extent of your commission, if you were to decide to extend a commission to JASCOM, would be for the citations of civil penalties and for for misdemeanors and gross misdemeanors. Within that range, if you have policy reasons why you may not want them to issue those, you have that control and that discretion. I'll say this much: the way the statute's set up, and this may be some of the I don't want to say conflict, but at least consternation between sheriff's enforcement and and by the way, the JASCOM is a subcommittee of the 4 local jurisdictions. So they're created in 2014 by the cities and the county, largely to maintain a animal shelter, right? But they also have certain other activities that they do in terms of picking up loose animals and other things like that. So so again, they can't go on private property, and to the extent that they would be issuing a citation and the citation wasn't paid, or they're on the ground, they see additional issues, that would have to be referred to the sheriff's office or the city police for further enforcement, if that requires, again, arrest or any other interactions through warrants or otherwise. So I'm just giving you a sense of the range. And so what you can decide in terms of a commission is anything between civil penalty, misdemeanor, but those are all options that are all supported by law. It's just a matter of what makes the most sense.
Does that mean the analogy to CPED, does that have any?
I mean, code enforcement is code enforcement. Law enforcement is law enforcement. But the folks, the code enforcement officers or whatever in CPED can be given more authority too, and they can be, commissioned in limited, ways more than we do. So
Could we come up with something that we could agree on about civil infractions or something?
I personally feel that animal control and law enforcement is best housed within a law enforcement facility and organization. I understand the shelter concept and how JASCOM feels that need, but when it comes to going outside and conducting law enforcement, responses and operations, it's just my personal belief and understanding that that should be housed within a law enforcement organization.
And I think this is a sorry, I jumped in. I think this is a conversation, honestly, that the board really needs to have, how we're going to move forward with JASCOM. And, I think Robin's trying to kind of go, try to find a way to find solutions to things, but I think in the grand scheme of things, the board really needs to have that conversation on which direction we're going to head in and just give clear communication instead of trying to kind of Band-Aid our way through this whole year of solutions.
Maybe Travis could answer this, and I agree with Commissioner Mejia. We need to set aside a little time, so we got 5 minutes. We're gonna solve this problem in 5 minutes, I don't think so. But for Travis, isn't there some places, or don't we, oftentimes the prosecuting attorney has sent a report and then the determination is made if a citation should be issued or a summons should be issued to address it further into the system? I mean, it always doesn't take a citation. I mean,
Yeah, I think what you're asking, Commissioner, is the criminal attorney role in prosecutorial discretion. And in that case, once a citation's issued, typically, and I'm just speaking generally, and by the way, I'm a civil lawyer, so, I apologize if I can't provide a whole lot of detail, but largely speaking, that, citations issued, and then to the extent that we need to prosecute or take someone to court, that's typically, within the prosecutor's purview. And so again, the statute, and by the way, the statute here is specific to animal control services. It's not, we currently, even if we wanted our code enforcers for code compliance and abatement, there is no statutory authority for criminal citation in that situation. This is a little unique in that the statute recognizes that there's animal service folks out there that can be commissioned for these limited purposes, right? So again, in that role, and I'm not saying either way whether you should do it or not. I'm just trying to give you an idea of where your authority lies. But if if an animal services group already, if they wanted to refer something to the prosecuting attorney's office, they can do that as well. And in fact, you don't even need to be commissioned to do that. So referrals can occur under current law because they're considered an animal control officer. And, for that matter, they can refer cases to both the sheriff's office and the prosecuting attorney's office right now. I think the question before you now is, in addition to that authority, does the board want to commission the ability to issue citations on the spot? And that would require, a commission and a separate contract with JASCOM.
And risk might come into play at some point.
I feel always, or generally, that empowering people and pushing down authority and giving them the ability to do their job at the highest level possible is generally the best practice. But with stuff like this, there needs to be controls, and there needs to be bumpers or whatever put on the sides of the lane, and the controls have to be stringent when it comes to the ability to enforce criminal code and things like that.
I would also just interject that what we're talking about is their ability to do this for unincorporated Thurston County, because apparently they already do these activities for the cities.
Let's find out how they do them for the city.
And I would like to little bit more history, because my recollection was that
You don't do it for
they
all the
have
cities.
had this authority from the sheriff, and they just weren't getting their updates from Sheriff Snaza, and it had nothing to do, in my understanding, it had nothing to do with they'd overstepped their bound. It was just a matter of like, they couldn't get.
It wasn't that they changed their hiring practices?
Oh, no.
That
This
what
was
we were
way
told.
back. This was like from the very time I've got on the board in 2019, the JazzCom was at, and I was assigned to JazzCom in my first year. Like you, Commissioner Edwards. And it was like, we can't get these processed through the sheriff. And it wasn't that the sheriff was saying, oh, we can't do it because they're not. It wasn't about like the merits. It was just more about, we're not really sure if we should have to do that or they should really have. I mean, it was really just kind of vague, and it was just, they couldn't come to agreement on getting it like done and processed. And so it's just been kind of percolating around for the last 5 years. And that's why I was like, my eyes lit up when he was like, okay, so I didn't have to have any of those conversations. We could have just solved this in 2019 by doing it at the board level. I'm pretty sure we would have done that at that time. Now, a whole bunch of stuff has happened about finances, and there's been a new director. I mean, there's all kinds of new JazzCom issues that have kind of maybe eroded our enthusiasm. But at the time that this problem first came up in 2019, if we had known the board could have done it, we would have done it. Because it was just, Snaza wasn't cooperating, wasn't communicating with the old director. The director had left. When I took over, there was an interim director. And then we did a hiring process for a new director, and they never got their relationship ironed out and got the processing. So, but it was never about the sheriff's office coming to the board and saying, we do not believe that this should be done because they're not following certain practices. They've overstepped their bounds on dozen cases and violated people's constitutional rights. I mean, none of that. It had nothing to do with the merits. It was just communication, bureaucracy, processing, a sense of, should I have to do this? I think there was a sense that Sheriff Snaza was just in the abstract, he was a little protective for maybe some of the reasons that you're describing. He was protective of the idea of letting anyone outside his direct command have this commission that would give them authority that he is blessed, but then he doesn't actually, exert authority. I mean, I think he wanted that kind of, he was going to extend a commission.
The list of people he actually commissioned would be contrary.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Anyway,
But this
well, I
would
don't know.
not
I'm
even
kind of
have been a
speculating, but I'm just saying that it was never explained to me that it was an issue of the merits, really. Otherwise, I would have the same concerns. It was more, I was just sort of thinking it was, trying to get somebody else to do something they didn't want to do, and here you're telling us, well, we could fix that. So I'm interested in finding a solution here, but it sounds like a longer conversation, so.
All right, well, we've scheduled, ongoing meetings with Animal Services, so this can be a topic at the next one.
Okay.
Could we find out what the other jurisdictions are doing?
Yes, we will absolutely
Okay.
be prepared to talk about
Thank you.
what they do for other jurisdictions.
Yes, next Wednesday, the 20th, from 2 to 3, they'll be back.
That's the next
Perfect.
one, coming
Thanks,
up,
Trev.
coming right up.
We have one more topic we need to get to before our,
Just very quickly, hopefully very quickly, I've included in your packet the offer of a grant to cover pre-design costs of looking into turning Building 7 into a childcare facility. The board had authorized us to make application for this grant. Before we take the next step of saying yes to the grant, we want to be confident that this is indeed what the board wants to do. Because the next step is to get a provider partner who would assist with the design work for the building. Because we don't have the expertise on staff to design a childcare facility. So what I'll be asking next Monday is your approval to move forward with this project.
so the board members can take a look at the
Yep.
packet that's in here.
Which one is Building 7?
Building 7 is right on the corner. If you think Building 4 is the building that HR used to be in.
Is it where?
Yeah, pre-trial services, the hub
The realtor
is
office?
in that
What's in
building.
there now?
Don't builders supply.
So
Public
that's
defenses,
Building
okay.
4 right now. Public Defense has office space in Building
Okay.
7, but
Is that building adequate?
that building,
It's just
the
in there.
cost So, in the grant scheme of the courthouse redesign, Building 7 was not included because the cost to bring it up to ADA compliance just did not fit within the $50 million we had. And we could arrange space in a way that we really didn't need it. We bought it because it completes our ownership of the block. However, if we can get grant money and convert the facility into a childcare center and contract with a partner that would actually be the childcare provider, with the understanding, should the board want to go down this path, that there are some opportunities for county employees to place their children there. Some of the slots, it doesn't say how many or what percentage, but some have to be for people who qualify for working connections childcare. But some could be for county employees. So it's a building that we weren't using for something else. I also don't know what the total cost is, where the money would come from to do the total remodel.
Yeah, because childcare facilities have a lot of requirements that are
Yes, they
fairly
do.
specific.
And Jenica is working on that.
She
She's
is.
working with several organizations to try to get some grant funding for something like that.
Yep.
Yep, she toured with appropriate staff from DCYF, and so they've gone through and kind of done a quick flyover of what would possibly need to be changed to make it work.
She's applied for some interesting grants too.
So we'll have a
Bezos.
longer discussion on this next week.
Would that building and this project be one where we could possibly consider that? I don't know, I got that briefing from Amoresco where the HVAC system wouldn't necessarily be owned by the county. It would be owned by the private organization, but we're paying maintenance costs over the years, just like we would a copy machine and the roof, the other infrastructure.
Could certainly consider that. I've got, Rick Thomas will be meeting with, Jim and Ryan.
Joel, probably.
Joel, thank you. Yeah, Jim and Joel, to talk about what the opportunities there are. I can tell you that we looked at an ESCO project, with the courthouse, and it was not, feasible.
Yeah.
Okay, we need to wrap up because we're 10 minutes over for our appointed directors meeting, so unless there's a burning fire on commissioner item, we'll adjourn. Okay, so we're adjourned, and we'll be picking right up with our appointed directors meeting on a different Zoom, I imagine.